if everything just went to crap right now in my business and it fell and I had to close it or whatever, I know that I have sales as my backup.
All right, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening from wherever you're watching from. I'm your host, Baika. Today's virtual chat is about sales and marketing, and we have a expert here to tell us about what is a strategy that can help us build an emotional, authentic relationship with our customers instead of the traditional or instead of other aggressive ways. And I'm glad to have everyone here to learn about, how to improve your sales strategies. And let me briefly introduce the speaker for today. About Tom. After selling over 21 million, he has over 30 years of sales experience. Now he helps other people to succeed in sales. He is the author of Selling with H.E.A.R.T, an approach designed to help business owners sell with empathy, integrity, and deep connection rather than using aggressive and high pressure tactics. So please join me and give a warm welcome to our special guest.
Hello.
Hi, hello. It's my pleasure to have you here. Thank you for accepting my humble invitation. What was a moment that made you decide to come up with the heart-led approach?
Great question. So, I really started my entrepreneurial journey owning a fitness center. So I was a personal trainer probably about 20 years ago, and I opened up a fitness center all by myself. I bought an existing one and then created this program and was trying to get clients to buy the program. And within 6 months, I almost went broke. And I realized that I couldn't sell. And I hired a coach, and the first thing that she said is like, you need to learn how to sell. And I was like, I don't like to sell. I don't want to sell. I don't like salespeople. As I was growing up, we always, my parents kind of set that in motion that salespeople are bad. Watch out for them. They're going to try to screw you out of money. And so that carried forward, and it was like, well, I don't want to upset mom and dad and become a salesperson. That would be bad, right? And that's kind of that whole mentality that goes through. And then I started to really dive deep into sales and sales psychology and human psychology, and realize that you don't have to be pushy. You don't have to do all these little tactics and things, trickery that a lot of salespeople do. That having a real honest conversation with people and understanding where they're stuck, what they need, they've tried in the past, and why they need it now. Knowing those things, and really just having a conversation with them for them to actually tell me what they needed, ended up being a really good sales process. So, and I didn't realize it at the time, but when I went through this process, it felt really good. It was like I was having a conversation with somebody that ended with a credit card being swiped, which was a beautiful thing. But it didn't feel pushy. It didn't feel salesy at all. That was really the catalyst for me, is that it was from, extreme failure and almost losing my business to, selling 95% of the people that came into my fitness center.
That's a profound story. Thank you for sharing that story. And I think a lot of people can resonate that with the stigma of sales people being pushy, or even sometimes I avoid going into certain malls or shops just because I don't want that feeling of high cortisol. Cortisol,
Right,
like
exactly.
it can feel a bit intimidating at times.
Exactly.
And it also it resonated with me about I don't like selling, but I have to sometimes. The next one is about stigma. A lot of people hear the word sales and
Hmm.
immediately think of manipulation or these deceptive strategies. How do you define the mindset from not just selling, but you're actually serving them?
Yeah, I mean that's the entire mindset right there. So you just stole my thunder. No, it's selling is serving, and that is when you think about it, if somebody has a problem that they're suffering with something, they have a problem. It doesn't matter what the problem is. They have a problem, and they come to you for a solution. Well, it's your duty and obligation to let them know if you can solve that problem for them. And if you can, then you show them the pathway to solving that with you, which would require an exchange of energy, which is money. But on the flip side, if during that conversation you realize, well, I really can't help this person. I don't have that expertise that they're looking for, what have you. Perfect. You'd let them know that, and then you refer them to somebody who could help them. And by doing that, that's the ultimate level of trust when it comes to sales. And in fact, in the book, in my book that I wrote, Selling with Heart, um, I share a story that somebody had said to me after I got really good at sales and was closing 95% of the prospects that would come into my fitness center. They said, "Gosh, Tom, you're so good at sales. You could sell ice to an Eskimo." And I was like, you know what? That's really offensive because I would never do that. I would never sell ice to an Eskimo because they don't need ice. They are surrounded by ice. So why would you sell something to somebody that they don't need? And that saying always just kind of struck with me because it was so weird that why I was like, why would you sell something to somebody that doesn't need it? And so that's the crux of my philosophy as well is if somebody doesn't need your services or you don't have services to provide to them, don't sell it to them. Find somebody else that can help them, and maybe you get a commission from referring them out to other people. There's always ways of making money.
Amazing. So that does bring to trust. What are
Mhm.
your core pillars of building trust with our community and
Yeah.
clients?
Yeah, it's one, tell the truth always. Like that's number one, right? That should just be human nature in any way. But you have a certain level of integrity. It's don't sell something to somebody that doesn't need it. Be open and honest about what you can provide to people and deliver on it and deliver more than what you promise. I'm a big believer in under promising and over delivering. And that comes down to just, surprising people or delighting people. I love that word. It's a really good word. Delighting your clients with something, kind of surviving. And I heard this story about an auto mechanic that, when you take your car in to get repaired, and they'll give you an estimate usually. And mechanics are notorious for kind of being shady, a little shady. But so you'd always go, they're like, oh yeah, it's going to be $100, and then you go back and it's like, you know what? We found some other stuff. It's actually $500. Like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Well, this auto mechanic took a different approach. So anytime that they gave an estimate, they always doubled or tripled it. And they told, well, it's going to be $300 to repair it. Okay, go ahead and repair it. And then the person comes back and says, you know what? It didn't cost us $300. It only cost us 200. Oh my gosh, I saved $100. Cool. And so that just, it's the flip of, instead of raising the rates, you lower it, but you start high and then you can come down versus starting low and then making a mistake and then having to charge more later. So it's really perception when it comes down to it. But that's how you develop trust is by just sticking to your word and over delivering what you promise.
And do you think it's difficult for people to keep that integrity, or does it come naturally to some and difficult for others?
It shouldn't be difficult for people. you know, and I think it's a choice. It definitely is a choice that we develop, and it could be from years of being raised by people that aren't honest, and then you won't be honest, but maybe you will. It all depends. But it is a choice. If you want to be honest with people, that's a choice. If you want to be dishonest, that's a choice as well.
I love your strategy. And next one is about handling objections with empathy.
Yeah,
You have a good deal coming up, or you have a great idea in mind, but somebody rejects you.
yeah.
How do we deal with rejection with empathy?
Yeah, well, objections are one thing. So I'll kind of focus on the objections. Objections, a lot of times people think that that's rejection, but objections are really just questions. And they're not always objections to whatever it is that you're selling. It's people are just curious or they're not quite sure what all is entailed, so they have to ask questions. But what happens is a lot of salespeople believe that that is an objection or a rejection, and so then they tense up and then they start to defend their program or their product. Versus, having a heart-led approach is you're agreeing with them. And when I say agree, not necessarily agreeing that their objection is valid, you're agreeing that you heard them. So you're just saying, yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. So if somebody says, oh, that's really expensive, it's like, no, I understand that. I hear that sometimes. But tell me, and then you want to ask a question. So tell me, what do you feel is expensive about this program? Or is it expensive compared to what? Like, what are you comparing it to? And a lot of times, just by asking that question, now you get the prospect to actually think. Because objections, and especially the price objection, oh, that's really expensive. A lot of times, that's just a knee-jerk reaction that people have, and it's not really an objection. They're just kind of like, oh, well, that's expensive, but they'll still buy it, right? But yeah, it's expensive. But if you get defensive, your prospects is going to feel that defensiveness, and they're like, oh, why is he getting all upset about this price and me saying it's expensive? Versus, yeah, no, I hear that. I hear it's expensive sometimes, but is expensive compared to what? And then when you ask that, usually 9 times out of 10, this is usually what happens with me anyway. They're like, oh, well, I don't know what it compared to. Okay, so is it really expensive? So if you can't compare it to something, like, is it expensive at all? And usually that alone will kind of flip them over.
I will use that question next time and I'll let you
Yeah.
know. I'll try
Perfect.
it. And what are some other tips to not become defensive? Do you have one more tip for us?
Yeah, well, breathe. So,
Okay.
and 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 you want to practice. So, you know, objections are going to come up, and there's three main objections that always come or that usually come up. Price is number one. Timing also can be an objection. So, oh, I don't have time right now to do this. Or the spouse objection is also another one. Um, but that's very, very common. And so, by just not getting defensive about it, but just being curious. And the other tactic is, when they say, "Oh, I have to talk to my spouse," you just repeat back what they just said, but you change it into a question. So you would say to me, "Oh, Tom, I have to talk to my spouse." I would say back, "Oh, you have to talk to your spouse?" And because it's a question that I'm posing to you, now you have to justify that somehow. So now instead of me having to handle the objection, it's like a hot potato. It's like, oh, hot potato. And I throw it right back to you. And now you have to answer the question.
Thank you so much for that. I will also try it. We have one question from our audience. I think she's here. If you have any questions, let's leave it in the comments. I don't know how to pronounce your name. So she's a foreigner. I know you've been
Mhm.
also an expat. I read
Yep.
your bio. You were living in Taipei.
I live in Taipei. Yes.
You still live
Yep.
there?
I still live here. Yeah. 6 years now.
Oh, okay. So I read your biography and I saw that you were also an expat. What is
Yep.
your tip for expats like us trying to break into a foreign country or a brand new market where we don't have, the backup as we might
Yeah.
in our home country? What is your tip for us people, expats?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know if I'm really qualified to speak to that because I don't sell locally. So I actually just I sell to people in the U.S. Or my clients are all in the U.S. and the U.K. So I don't really know. And to be honest with you, but I would imagine that sales is one of those things that if everything just went to crap right now in my business and it fell and I had to close it or whatever, I know that I have sales as my backup. And even living here in Taiwan, I could get a good sales job and still, make a good living. So it's sales is one of those universal skills that will translate anywhere in the world. Now, communication does become a little difficult, especially if like for me, I speak a little Chinese, but I don't speak fluently, like enough to sell something in China. I wouldn't be able to. But so language becomes part of it. But if you're fairly fluent in the language that where you're living, then it translates. Sales is a universal language.
Thank you. And for if someone anyone is feeling stuck right now in sales, what should be a shift that they can make in their sales process?
Yeah, so every salesperson goes through like these valleys and troughs and peaks and valleys. But the key is to even that out. And what I always did was I tracked my sales like religiously, like very meticulously, every step. So how many leads did I get? How many of those leads turned into appointments? Of those appointments, how many showed up? And if they showed up, how many bought? And then were there any refunds or chargebacks after the sale? So knowing all of those, I was able to then diagnose like, oh, you know what? I'm having a trouble converting those leads into appointments because I have the data to show that. So then I know, well, I need to work on that, and then I'll work on that. So tracking will give you the data that you need rather than just, oh, I feel like this is a problem. Feelings are feelings, right? Data is data and numbers are numbers. So go by the numbers so you can identify where you need to work on, and then either find a coach or a book or some type of resource to then find out how you get better at that particular skill.
You mentioned at the earlier of our chat about a coach who told you that you need to sell.
Yeah.
What was, are you still in touch with the coach and are you grateful for the coach?
Yeah, I mean, she's been my coach for almost 20 years now. And so we now we only speak like once a month, but yeah, we have a great relationship. So yeah, she lives in Costa Rica, I live in Taipei, but it all works out. But yeah, it's always really good, and especially if you're a coach and you don't have a coach, I think that's really hypocritical, because everybody should be upskilling it somehow. And I have like two coaches right now. So like I have her as kind of my base, and then I have another business coach as well that works on more of the marketing side. But I think it's important that you have a second set of eyes looking at your business or looking at certain skills. So for sure, yeah, coaching is important.
Absolutely. I agree. We have a question from Ashrika. Hi, Ashrika. Thank you for joining. I've been trying to get clients for my agency for a long time. If you were in my shoes, how would you get leads and turn them into paying clients when you're starting from zero?
That's a really great question, and I've been there multiple times. So the first thing is you have to understand who your ideal client is. So you have to get like really, really specific about who you want to go after. So just, oh, I want to help any business owner. That's not good enough. I'm assuming it's a marketing agency. So if you say, well, anybody that needs marketing or Facebook ads, I'm your person. Like you're going to talk to nobody with that, because if you're speaking to everybody, you're speaking to nobody. So you have to get very specific and very niche down into like a certain business. So a friend of mine has a marketing company that's specific to fitness and in-person fitness facilities, not online trainers, but they have to have so that's very specific, right? They have a brick and mortar. They're either a gym or a personal trainer, and they do marketing for them. So by doing that, they're able to have a multi-million dollar business by just focusing on that aspect, because now you're an expert at marketing for fitness centers, or you're marketing for dentists, or whatever your niche is. Now you can have your portfolio that's all dentists. So you go to another dentist and they're like, oh yeah, this is great. Now, to break into that, and especially for agencies, because that's a tough grind, I would go to who your ideal client is and say, a local bit, maybe it's a local business. Let's just say dentist. I don't know why that's in my mind. But you go to the local dentist or five of them, and you say, hey, I would love to do your marketing for you free of charge as a test. And all I ask is that you give me a testimonial at the end if I do a good job for you. And if after the 2 months of doing this for free, if you decide to pay me for that, that would be up to you. And if we continue on. So I think that's one way to build a business is by, again, over delivering, under promising. And if you have to do stuff for free, do stuff for free.
Yes, absolutely. Let's talk about the future. AI is taking over a lot of industries, maybe taking over is a
Yes.
strong word, but it is doing
Influencing.
influencing a lot of jobs,
Yep.
tasks. It is affecting and influencing in so many ways. What is your tip for people who wants to start an AI agency, AI
Yeah.
automated agency?
Yeah, so do it, number one. We're in a really cool space right now. AI is moving so fast. Most people can't remember or weren't around when the internet first came around. It was 1994 is when I remember the internet for the first time at the college that I was going to. And what I see from that moment and when the internet just kind of exploded in the early 2000s is what's happening right now with AI. And if you look at the companies that started with the internet way back then, Google, Facebook, well, not Facebook came along a little bit later, but like Google, Yahoo, um, all the, lots and lots of companies that have come and gone, but the ones that have stayed have adapted and shifted to the market. And so that's what people have to remember about AI. AI is not going to go away. It's only going to get better as we go about. I mean, just what Claude has or Anthropic has developed with their Fable 5 is just absolutely incredible what that model can do. But if you're not engaging with AI and using it, you're going to be left behind. So I use it all the time. I just created 5 apps this weekend, which was really fun to do. And I also use it for sales. So I review all my sales. I review my clients' sales through AI as well. And I've created a pretty mega prompt. So it's like a 5-page prompt. And then I've loaded up all of my philosophy about sales. So it has context to be able to look at somebody's transcript of the sales call and then grade it and give them exact scripting on what would improve it next time. So like stuff like that would take you hours of just kind of looking at your different or listening to recordings and doing all that and kind of compiling it. But people are lazy, they're not going to do that. But you just load a transcript up into Claude and it spits out in 5 minutes what your grade is and how to improve. Like it's so amazing. So yeah, use it and don't get left behind.
I have another question. Someone says they know exactly who their client is. They are
Good.
targeting family business, family founders who are ready to do wealth transition for their kids, people that
Mm,
are in the C-suite. She's
okay.
a wealth manager, but she still is struggling to find paying clients.
Yeah. So one of the best ways is we always say you go fish where the fish are. Is a saying that somebody said, I guess. But so you have to go to where they're hanging out. So are they part of an organization or a club or something like that where you could go and do a talk? And by doing a talk or a presentation, and it could be a 10-minute, it could be an hour-long presentation, it really doesn't matter. But you're up there in front of an audience, you're instantly an expert. And if you go through and talk about what people need to do to transition their wealth from themselves to their children without incurring a lot of tax penalties and all that, then you give them what they need to do and you sell them how to do it. So you're telling them what they need to do, but it's going to be overwhelming. They're not going to know how to do it exactly. And so your call to action at the end is if you're interested in having a conversation with me to see if I can help you, then see me in the back of the room after the presentation, and I'll be happy to discuss and maybe we can set up an appointment. So get out into the community. Don't sit behind a desk or run Facebook ads or anything like that. Get out in front of people and actually talk to them.
Thank you so much. How
Sure.
can people find you? How can we find your book and your service?
Yeah, great. So the book is on Amazon and it's in Audible as well, read by the author myself. But it's Selling with Heart, and Heart is an acronym, so it's H period E period A period R-T. All that. So put that into Amazon, and you'll come up with the book there. It's available on Kindle and um, paperback and audio as well. Or you could go to my website, tomjackobs.com, and that's TomJackobs.com.